Ready or not, here the Aries Solar Eclipse comes, bringing you and your soul massive accelerations, activations, and upgrades. So here's what you need to know about this fated alignment in the cosmos. Hi, my name is Comet, and welcome to my Cosmic Corner of the Internet, where we discuss all things astrology, and today, all things Aries Solar Eclipse, April 8th, 2024, and you. What destined new beginning is currently forming for you within the cosmos, and how to launch forward into the new timeline that you are being initiated into. This solar eclipse lands in the sign Aries, and it's on the north node. So there's a lot associated with this eclipse that is about new beginnings. If you've been tuning into my eclipse content, you've heard me talk about how eclipses are a time in which what is fated for us enters into our universe, what is outdated and outlived its purpose within our lives departs our universe. And the prior eclipse, the Libra lunar eclipse, was mostly concerned around endings, releasings, grievings, all to set us up for this new beginning. This one is associated with new starts, new activations, new sides of yourself that are wanting to come through, new desires you are being called upon to actualize. And there is absolutely this energy embedded within this solar eclipse due to its proximity to Chiron around, am I ready for this? Can I do this on my own? Am I good enough for these desires? Am I capable? And it's just important to know that what happens around eclipses is fated. The universe is aligning scenarios and timelines and dynamics to launch you forward into this new start. But with the energy of Chiron, you could be suffocated by self-doubt or even looking at past painful points of your journey and wondering if this new start will bring more pain or more suffering your way. You can be blocking your blessings when you are not being courageous during this time and seeing that everything that is transpiring currently is aligning for you. And like I said, that last eclipse could have been heavy. There could have been realizations and epiphanies that came up around what within your life needs to be shed. And this solar eclipse, it's certainly no walk in the park with its conjunction to Chiron. There can be painful themes that are emerging within your life, but it's asking you for courage. When we boil down Aries to its core, this is about having courage. This is about taking that first step. This is about being able to initiate this new chapter of your journey. Even with this Chiron whispering in its ear around all of the ways that we're not good enough, all of the ways that we have been hurt in the past, courage takes on a different meaning when you consider the courage to be vulnerable, the courage to have fallen before but still get up and keep moving towards your soul purpose, the courage to start something new even if you are fearful around looking dumb or feeling different than other people. This is courage. It's not always just skydiving and extreme sports. It's also the courage to show up, and to show up vulnerably and authentically. A lot of the new start that is aligning for many of us within the cosmos is a new start around no longer holding ourselves back out of fear of judgment from others. That Libra lunar eclipse was very much around releasing this need for validation or acceptance from others. And this eclipse is asking you to validate yourself. Empower yourself as you step into this new beginning. Understand that these desires and this personality and this vessel and these preferences are all clues to move towards what your preferred timeline would be, and no longer hold yourself back out of fear of judgment or fear of people seeing your wounded parts or your vulnerable parts. This is a solar eclipse that's asking for deep integration around everywhere that we have been, every part of our journey, much of which could have been painful, and asking us to still be courageous enough to show up and to show up authentically and boldly and courageously, understanding that not everybody will understand our path, but not everybody needs to. And with this Aries solar eclipse, there's a particular portion of your chart that will be activated. We'll go into our all sign forecast after the general reading so that you can figure out, what new beginning am I being launched forward into? Where am I being asked to have more courage to be vulnerable? Where am I being asked to be more authentic? Where am I being asked to advocate for myself? We will break that down, everything you need to know about where this eclipse is forming within your chart and the new new chapters and the new timelines that you're being launched forward into, ready or not. Before we do though, I just want to say, if this is your first time to my channel, hi, my name is Haley Comet, welcome. I want to let you know I do a weekly horoscope series called Magic Monday, where I take you through not just the week's astrology, but also how you can co-create with the week's astrology, how you can flow with where the universe is guiding you in order to live your life with more alignment and more magic. So make sure to subscribe if you're into content like that, as well as the other all sign forecasts that I do here in my little cosmic corner of the internet. So I deeply appreciate a subscription if that feels in alignment with you and your journey. So without further ado, let's go ahead and take it into the solar eclipse in Aries collective forecast. So the Aries solar eclipse lands on April 8th at 11:21 a.m. PDT. Please adjust to your time zone. And even though that's when it exacts, you've already been feeling this building. And you will feel this building probably throughout the duration of Aries season. It's not that only at 11:21 you'll have all of these major accelerations, activations, and upgrades. This is an ongoing story, and it will continue to reverberate out for the next 6 months or so. So the story is just beginning, but this particular eclipse could definitely speed up a lot of what the universe is wanting to show you and the new beginning that the universe has been orchestrating for you on your behalf. And I do want to say that while each and every one of us has this bold new beginning currently aligning for us within the cosmos, some of our bold new beginnings are a little bit more dramatic than they are for others. Not every eclipse is life-changing, transforming for our charts, and thank goodness for that, because if you've been eclipsed, you know that sometimes eclipses can bring about massive changes, massive overhaul of our universe. But the individuals who will have that happen to varies based on the eclipse that we're talking about. So for this particular eclipse, the individuals who may find that this Aries solar eclipse is more massively pivotal or definitely more in your face would be those who have Aries, Cancer, Libra, or Capricorn placements between 14 to 24 degrees. So if you have personal planets, that is Sun, Moon, Ascendant, Mercury, Venus, or Mars placed in Aries, Cancer, Libra, or Capricorn from 14 to 24 degrees, this eclipse might be a little bit more pivotal and a little bit more potent than it would be for others. So do we have any athletes here in the Cosmic Corner today? Show of hands, let me know below, because there's a lot about this Aries solar eclipse that feels like the moments before the big game. So you can fill in the details on whichever sport you play or have played in the past, but there's this energy within this Aries solar eclipse around the moments just before you step on the basketball court, before the championship game. And we'll say that the starter is injured and you're being asked to be a starter. Typically you kind of warm the bench, and now you're being asked to show up for the championship game. And as you are preparing, the music is blaring, you're doing your little exercises, you're trying to warm up, but inwardly you are freaking out and you are telling yourself, you can't do this, you're gonna mess it up for the entire game, you're just a bench warmer, the starter is injured, can I do this, can I do this, can I do this? But when the referees blow the whistle and the game is about to begin, you have no option but to show up on the court and to play your best and to be courageous about this new start that is aligning for you. Why does this Aries solar eclipse feel like this? This solar eclipse aligns with Mercury, who is currently retrograde. And we know that with Mercury retrograde, it does flip the direction inward. So with Mercury retrograde, you can find that currently, and particularly around this eclipse, you could be definitely absorbed within your mind, definitely being a little bit more introspective or really striving to think things through within your own journey. You could be very thoughtful around what changes you are craving within your universe. Eclipses tend to make us want to shake something up big. But with Mercury retrograde, it's important the narrative that you are telling yourself about this new start that is forming. Whether you are ready or not, you have to step on that court and play the best game that you possibly can. And with Mercury retrograde, you can observe that there's this narrative around, can I do this? I have this desire of this new business that I want to start. Could that possibly happen to someone like me? Or there's this new start for me. I'm now single. Can I do this? Should I just go back to this person who mistreated me because it feels scary to be single? You can observe with Mercury retrograde that you're having a lot of thoughts inward, and there's parts of you that might be freaking out around, can I do this? Can I step onto the court and play? Can I initiate this new single part of my journey? Can I start this business? Can I? And that's why it's important to validate yourself. Aries is the sign of self, right? And affirm, I can. And again, we don't know how that basketball game ends. You won't know all of the peaks and valleys of being single. You won't know all of the ups and downs of running a business until you take action, until you step into this new chapter. And there can be temptations within you around wanting to backtrack, wanting to run back to that person who mistreated you, wanting to go back to your 9-to-5, wanting to run away from the basketball court and not show your face to your team ever again. There's a big temptation where you could be feeling like, I couldn't possibly do this. And that's the influence of this solar eclipse's proximity to Chiron. Chiron is the wounded healer. It's a comet in between Saturn and Uranus, and essentially governs what within us has felt rejected, where we have felt not good enough, where even parts of us we have felt abandoned, where we have had certain physical, mental, emotional limitations within our journey. It's this wound that never completely heals. It's this pain point that no matter where it is that we are in life, there will still be certain comments or certain scenarios that bring us back to that pain, and we think, ouch. And that never goes away. Even championship athletes still have that moment right before they step on the court where they're like, can I do this? Am I capable? But what's different and what they've learned to do, and what you have to learn to do with this Aries solar eclipse, is to affirm yourself, validate yourself. Yes, I can. And it's not ignoring the Chiron energy, the parts of your story that have been wounded or that feel raw or where you have experienced pain. It's initiating this new chapter because of all of that. It's understanding, no, I owe it to myself to show up for this championship game and do the best that I can because of the obstacles that I have endured. No, I owe it to myself to step into my single life because of the pain that I endured within that relationship. I cannot backtrack. No, I owe it to myself to start my own business because of the ways that I've been mistreated at my workplace. It's this energy around not ignoring or pretending to be something that we're not, because like I said, this Aries solar eclipse is big on authenticity, but it's embracing that part of ourselves. It's not letting that pain hold us back from the new beginning. It's understanding that pain taught us and showed us all that it needed to for us to be at this new start that is currently forming and aligning at this present moment in time. And you are ready for this. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, so it governs initiative and drive and being willing to take that first step. Ready or not, being willing to take that first step and knowing that there will be mistakes, knowing that things will be messy, but at least you are showing up. At least you are playing the game. Whenever we talk about eclipses, there are some important dynamics that really influence how this eclipse shows up within our world. So that is if it's a solar eclipse or a lunar eclipse, and if it's on the north node or the south node. So this is a solar eclipse, which means an eclipse on the new moon. And new moons are about new beginnings. Lunar eclipses on the full moon, tend to be a little bit more personal, and solar eclipses tend to be a little bit more collective. But nevertheless, this is a new start. What's more is that this is a solar eclipse on the north node, which signals gain. And when we think about the roots of the nodes and our understandings around them, much of which has been derived from Vedic astrology, is that with north node, it can be referred to as the dragon's head. Like, it's a very ravenous part of our chart. And when we consider that it's a solar eclipse on the north node, you've got to want it. You've got to be hungry for it. And with the energy of Aries being the sign of self, it's understanding nobody is going to actualize and create my desires but me. And I have to let that hunger, that wanting, that craving of this new start, to win this game, to get in a relationship where I feel valued, to start this business, I need to allow that to fuel me. I need to allow that to drive me forward, even in those moments of self-doubt, which are certain to occur, but you've got to want it. No one's going to want it for you as much as you're going to want it for you, because it's important to note that Aries is the sign of self. So the past eclipse was mostly focused upon relationships and the balance within our world between self and others, how it is that we relate to others. And this is a new start that is focused upon yourself. And to be a little selfish, about your desires. And I want to be so clear here. I'm not saying that your journey is requiring you to go at it alone. Now, some people can be feeling this energy around, wow, I'm really out here by myself having to initiate this new start. I just want to let you know the Aries energy is giving you the courage to step into this new chapter and to validate yourself and affirm yourself as you do. No one will get it and understand it and cheerlead it like you will for yourself. And this Aries solar eclipse is about no longer waiting for validation or acceptance or the push from others, creating it and generating it from within, even if that's painful with the conjunction to Chiron. For some, that is the story around going at something on your own, initiating a new chapter. For some, it's mostly coming from this energy around not being guilty about your desires, around what it is that you want from life. And I feel with this solar eclipse's proximity to Chiron, I feel like some of you could have felt guilty around, why do I want this so bad? Like, why can't I just settle for this relationship? Even if I'm not being treated well, like everybody else is married, like why can't I just settle for this? Or why can't I just be happy in my 9 to 5? I mean, they pay me fine. Like there could be this energy around feeling guilty for wanting what it is that you want out of life. And there's an energy with this Aries solar eclipse around understanding that these desires have been given to you for a reason. And you know, the universe can give you all of the signs, right? It can give you all of the synchronicities that you're on the right path, but it's up to you to step onto the court. It's up to you to take action. It's up to you to understand that these desires are not random and no one's going to make them happen for you other than yourself. So if you have been going back and forth, I feel like that Libra lunar eclipse was releasing indecision for a lot of us, but alas, if you have been going back and forth around, should I do this? Am I capable of starting my own business? Can I navigate life on my own without a partner, even if I feel to be mistreated? There's an energy around with the solar eclipse in Aries, no longer feeling guilty for wanting what it is that you want out of life, even if it's an unpopular path or one that many others don't understand. It's your life, it's your time, it's your desires. And this is an Aries solar eclipse around reclaiming that, no longer feeling guilty for that, for being the ways that you are. Because like I was saying earlier, this is a new start that is deeply authentic. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. And within astrology, the zodiacal wheel is meant to represent a life cycle. So when you consider that Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, Aries represents the celestial child, right? The first spark of life, who it is that we are before the world told us how to be. And with this energy of the solar eclipse on Aries, it's almost reclaiming those authentic parts to you, reclaiming how honest you were when you were a child. I mean, those of you who have children or around children, you know, they'll tell you what's up. They'll tell you if you're looking tired today or whatever it is that they'll tell you. They'll be very straight up because they haven't learned to have a filter. They haven't learned to pretend to be someone that they are not. And so this Aries solar eclipse is almost like this energy around cutting through all of the coping mechanisms that we have learned in order to safeguard the parts of us that didn't feel accepted or that felt vulnerable, and getting back to that. Again, I'm not saying that you should be telling people that they look tired, but it is about being able to reclaim that energy of when you were young and you weren't so self-conscious or so consumed in what other people think. You just were. Like Aries is a fire sign. Fire doesn't think, it just burns. It is who it is. It doesn't ask, is this too hot? Is this flame too tall? It just burns because that's who it is. That's what it does. And so there's parts of this Aries solar eclipse around giving up the battle of trying to be someone that you are not and just choosing to shine up and shine and burn in the authentic ways that you were designed to. And for some of you, it's around being vulnerable with the conjunction to Chiron. Some of you, depending on the house, of course, that it's placed in, some of you could have been trying to be someone that you are not in order to safeguard these more raw parts of yourself. You you could have been approaching dating through this lens around not wanting to get hurt, so being distant with others, or within friendships, not feeling comfortable opening up about what it is that you're struggling with because you don't want to feel ostracized or weird or rejected. Like with this solar eclipse on Chiron, it's allowing ourselves the courage. Aries is a very courageous sign to be vulnerable. That's what Chiron is about, and that's what true courage is. It's about having the courage to be ourselves, even if that leads to judgment. It's having the courage to be honest with our own journey, what it is that we've gone through, what it is that we are currently battling. And it's the courage to try. Because some of you have been holding yourself back from certain desires or certain experiences that you really want to have during this finite time on this planet out of fear of judgment, or even out of fear of it not being perfect. This Aries solar eclipse is about being daring enough to take the first step, understanding you may feel dumb, you may feel judged at first with the conjunction to Chiron, you may feel vulnerable putting yourself out there in this way, but it's cool to try. It's cool to take steps in the direction of what makes your heart soar. It's cool to start to build momentum towards what lights you up. It's cool to give a crap. Honestly, like this is an Aries solar eclipse around no longer feeling suffocated trying to fit in or trying to be cool or fearing judgment from others. It's showing up for your life in a very earnest way. Bring back being earnest, okay? Bring back being earnest. Even if you mess up, even if you make a mistake, even if it takes time to develop or you feel silly posting your first podcast or whatever it is, we'll get into the forecast for your sign. Whatever it is, it's having the courage to show up, to take that step and overcoming all of the fear of judgment and all of the personal insecurities and all of the past times that you've been hurt in order to show up and to take that step because you owe it to yourself. And so with this solar eclipse, we are being launched forward into this new timeline. And this new timeline is going to ask you to be courageous. It's going to ask you to try. It's going to ask you to take that first step. It's going to ask you to take action. And it's going to ask you to do your best. Step on the basketball court and play the best game possible. Not allowing that inner chatter around where you're not good enough to get in your head too much. Still showing up, still playing the game. So you may be asked, Haley Comet, where am I being asked to step on the court? Where am I being asked to play the game within my life? Let's go ahead and find out how you can find out exactly where this Aries solar eclipse lands in for your chart. So let's find out where exactly this solar eclipse in Aries falls in within your chart, and thus the new start that the universe is aligning for you. So to do this, there are two options. The first is the one that I recommend if you are newer to astrology or you utilize whole sign house system. For this, all you'll do is you'll figure out your rising sign, also known as your ascendant sign, and you'll look below in the description as well as within the pinned comment, and you'll find the timestamp that corresponds to your rising sign. Progress to that timestamp, and that is your reading. The next option is for those who utilize Placidus house system. It's important to note that if you do use Placidus house system, the timestamp that I'll give you instructions right now to find may be different than the one listed under your ascendant. When I say likely blank ascendant, I'm putting that for those who use whole sign. If you use Placidus, it may be the same as your ascendant, it may differ. But within Placidus, we take where exactly 19 degrees lands in within your chart. So to do this, you'll want to go to astro.com. I have a visual on screen here and I'll walk you through the entire process. So after inputting your birth information, you will get a circle chart that looks like this. From here, we'll want to find where exactly you have Aries located within your chart. So it's a red symbol. It looks like this. I'm circling it. And we'll see that that symbol expands over maybe 1, maybe 2, even 3 houses. So to find out what houses you have Aries within, you'll go to the inner part of the chart and you'll see little numbers. So within this example on screen, we see that the Aries symbol is located in the 3rd and the 4th houses. Amazing. So you can either listen to both and see what resonates, or we'll want to get specific and figure out where 19 degrees Aries lands. So from here, we'll want to find the beginning of Aries, because this is 0 degrees Aries. So it'll be the portion of the Aries symbol that borders the Pisces symbol. It's blue. It looks like this, kind of like an H. So this is 0 degrees Aries. These little grid marks indicate increments of 5. So if this eclipse is at 19 degrees Aries, we'll want to go 5, 10, 15, 20. So this grid mark is 20 degrees Aries. We know this is at 19, so it'll be right next to this grid mark around here. We follow to the inner ring and we see that that corresponds to the 3rd house. Advance to the 3rd house, and that is your reading. Let's say you're like, Haley Comet, it looks so close, I just can't tell. To do this, we'll want to hit additional tables PDF above the circle chart, and from there on the right hand side, it will give you a list of where exactly every house begins within your chart. So let's say you do that and you see, okay, my 4th house, in this case, it will say IC, begins at 21 degrees. If this eclipse is at 19 degrees, I know that this eclipse must land in my 3rd house, because 19 comes before 21. So hopefully that helps in finding your exact reading if you do utilize Placidus house system. And without further ado, let's go ahead and take it into our house by house forecast. If the Aries solar eclipse lands within your 1st house, you may be an Aries rising, or you just have 19 degrees Aries located within the 1st house, but either way, this is your reading. This solar eclipse is launching you, guiding you, and nudging you to show up for yourself and your desires in a big way. Currently, you have most likely North Node transiting the 1st house, and this is the universe guiding you to prioritize yourself and to be a little selfish. I'm not saying to be rude or to abandon the people that you are connected to, but this is a solar eclipse to remember not to abandon yourself in this effort to try to remain connected, or even just within the container of what your connections expect from you. And so with this solar eclipse, you're being guided to deeply prioritize and ask yourself, what is it that I want out of this experience? If you are currently in a crossroads where someone within your world wants you to veer right, but you're feeling pulled to veer left, even if it's painful, even if it's a tough decision to make, veer left or go in the direction of where your journey is taking you at this moment. That is what this solar eclipse is asking you to do, which can be painful at times to let people down. But this is a solar eclipse that asks you to remind yourself to thine own self be true. You have to choose yourself. You have to choose yourself before anyone else chooses you. And even if it's not so much as crossroads around somebody within your world wants you to make this certain decision, there can be certain things that don't sit right with your soul. You know you deserve better. Your integrity is pulling you in a different direction, and you are being asked to choose yourself, even if that's scary. Because the ruler of this eclipse is Mars, who is currently aligned with Saturn, and most likely the two are in the 12th house. And so you may be having to get real with yourself right now. You might be really prioritizing your healing and getting your habits in order. You might be really doing some work that people are not necessarily privy to, and it's hard to get real with yourself. It's hard to get real with your desires. It's hard to cut out the bad habits or to decide that you want more for yourself, but that is what you are being guided to do at this time, even if other people do not understand it. This is a nudge to prioritize yourself, your healing, your well-being, not just in your physical body, but also within your mental, emotional, and spiritual space. Like fiercely protecting your peace is what I'm hearing. And really making the decisions that will create that sanctuary for your own well-being. and knowing that if something feels off, you don't necessarily need to have conscious awareness of why something feels off or why you shouldn't go down that road. Like, this is sort of an energy where I feel like some of you can be getting a bad feeling about something, or like intuitive hit, and you're like, oh, this doesn't feel right. Like, I want to go a different direction. This relationship, it's all good on paper, but something feels off. Or this particular partnership, something feels off. Something feels off. Sometimes we feel like we have to hold on to something until it gets really bad for us to leave, or for us to choose ourselves, or to take a new direction. And I just feel like for some of you, you're getting this nudge and this intuitive hit. And for some of you, you're choosing to not stick around to see how bad it could possibly get until you have no choice but to leave. You're being asked to trust your inner guidance system. Like Aries, when we think about it, it's our raw instincts, right? And sometimes we don't need to even have a reason of why your intuition is like, you know, this is not for me, I've got to go. Just a quick anecdote, it's being shown within my mind's eye. I was recently traveling Thailand, and the island that I was on is very much known for their parties. And it wasn't really what I was craving out of Thailand. Like, I didn't really go there to party or anything. I was after some different experiences, but I met these people and they kind of made me feel like I would be lame if I didn't party. And listen, at my big age, I don't know, I succumbed to the peer pressure and I decided to go to this party. And it was a whole arduous journey to get there. You had to take this like sketchy truck through the jungle to get to this like deserted part of the island where the party was at, or you could take a sketchy boat ride. We opted for the truck. They like loaded all of these people within the bed of the truck. And even after this 45-minute truck ride, getting there, and it was a cool party, it was cool people, it was cool environment, but for some reason, I just had this feeling around, I've got to go. I've got to go. I've got to go. And I was not interested in sticking around and finding out why Spirit was nudging me to take myself and remove myself from that situation. I wasn't interested. I was like, listen, my intuition has never steered me wrong. I could ignore this because there was a lot of temptation. Like the people that I was with were like, you can't leave. You just got here. Even trying to get a sketchy truck back to my side of the island was this whole ordeal. They didn't want to take just me. It was a party that went till sunrise and they wanted to wait until there's 14 other people to leave. And it was so early in the night that I knew that would take literal hours. Like there was so much resistance, but I was so fierce about, no, it's time for me to go. It's time for me to go. And I had no reason why. But I wasn't interested in figuring out the reason why. Like, I just feel like with the ruler of the solar eclipse within the 12th house, there can be something that feels murky where you're not sure why your instincts are guiding you to make the decision that you're making right now. It could feel murky. It can feel confusing. It certainly did in my case. I was like, I don't know why. And there was so much resistance where it would have been easier to make other people's words and other people's expectations more real than just this feeling from within. But I had to trust that. As murky as it was, I was like, listen, I've got to advocate for myself. No one's going to advocate for me like I will for myself. These people that I was hanging out with on the island, they're cool and all, but if something were to really go south, I don't know if they would necessarily stick up for me or make sure that I was good or safe. Like, I just knew in this moment, I've got to advocate for myself because no one else will. And the reasonings were murky. And so I feel like for some of you, there can be a decision that you're making for yourself or for your healing or for your well-being where you're not sure why you're being guided to make this decision. It feels murky. It feels a little clouded. And listen, I don't want you to feel pressured that you need to make this decision right now. Mercury's retrograde. I just feel like for some of you, there's been an intuitive hit that's been coming up, but you've been ignoring it because you're like, well, no, it doesn't make sense. Like, trust your instincts, honestly, and trust that universe source energy can be protecting you by shielding you from certain experiences or by giving you that intuitive hit around, you know, I gotta leave the party. I gotta leave this environment. I don't know why. I don't know what would have happened had I stayed in the party. All I know is that I got the nudge and I was uninterested in finding out. Wholly uninterested. So for some of you, it's not so much that you need to go your own path. This is the house of self. I do feel like some of you could have had some shakeups with that Libra lunar eclipse within the 7th house. Certain people and their intentions and just dynamics of your relationship and where it's in balance could have been revealed to you. And so you're being asked to choose and prioritize yourself and your desires. That does not necessarily mean a breakup. It just could mean advocating for what it is that you need out of the connection and understanding that your needs have value and that your triggers have value with the energy of the Aries solar eclipse on Chiron. Some of you, particularly since you have at least part of Aries within the first house, there's this energy where you've developed this hyper independence where you are so self-sufficient, and there can be an energy around not wanting to tell those who are near and dear to you what is going on with you for fear that they will see you as weak. And there can be a tendency to want to hide anything that is vulnerable within your journey. And this is a solar eclipse to honor and advocate for your vulnerabilities. Like being able to advocate like, hey, I need support here. Or hey, this is a joke that you make that makes me uncomfortable due to what it is that I've gone through. Some of you could be advocating for that, certainly within relationships. But some of you could just be fighting for yourself and fighting for your life. Some of you could be getting sober. You could be making decisions in order to move towards a space of healing. Some of you could have been very triggered this eclipse season. There could have been things from the past or just past triggers coming to the surface, and you're being asked to fight for your life. Fight for your life, fight for your desires, fight for your well-being. Because the solar eclipse is about no longer ignoring the parts of us that are vulnerable and need healing and that have been through it, right? And this is an energy around understanding everything that has occurred is not your fault, but like how it is that you progress forward is your responsibility. And you owe it to yourself. You owe it to yourself to advocate for your life. You owe it to yourself to move towards your desires. Like when Chiron energy is active within the cosmos, there can be certain triggers, things that bring us back to very wounded parts of our journey. And there can be a temptation where you're wanting to backtrack or you're wanting to avoid reality, right, with your ruling planet within the 12th house. Some of you can be in a little bit of a hermit era right now, just kind of coming inward and processing things. But I don't want you to feel like if old triggers or old wounds come to the surface that you are backtracking. Sometimes these abscesses or these wounds surface for the purpose of allowing ourselves to pave the way towards healing, because we don't heal when we ignore and push things into the crevices of our life and of our mind. And so there can be a nudge to observe what eclipses have been bringing to the surface and to take this as data and move forward. Some of you could be coming through in a very physical way. Some of you are starting to work out more. You're starting to move your body. You're starting to want to feel more energized. Like with the energy of Chiron, and like I said, some of you are emotionally healing, but some of you are physically healing. Like you're wanting to feel good. You're wanting to feel energetic. You're wanting to feel lit up by life. And you're taking the actions necessary in order to move forward. Some of you could even be like physically rehabilitating yourself. Maybe you're getting over being sick. Maybe you're battling something physically. And this is solar eclipse to have courage, because this is a new start. With this solar eclipse within the first house, it's a new start for your physicality. It's a new start for your healing. So prioritize that. For some of you, where you're being asked to have courage is around getting comfortable being seen. Getting comfortable being seen. Because I feel for some, especially with Chiron transiting this sector and, Saturn in the 12th, like I said, some of you are kind of like hiding away. And for some, you've been being very hard on yourself. You've been beating yourself up. There can be a hesitation around putting yourself out there for that promotion or starting your social media or whatever it is, because there's this energy around, well, if I'm seen on a bigger stage, on a bigger platform, then people will see what I see, what I hyperfixate on when I look at my appearance. And I want you to know, firstly, that no one will be as hard on you as you will be on yourself. And secondly, it's just about honoring that when you let other people and your fear of judgment hold you back, you lose. At the end of the day, you lose, because you're not putting yourself out there for new opportunities, new beginnings, new opportunities to be seen. You lose at the end of the day, not these haters out there, because people will always say something, but it's just important to honor that this fear of visibility is holding you back. And there can be people who could benefit from seeing someone like you, is what I'm feeling. Like seeing a leader like you who has overcome and endured what it is that you've gone through, or a, doesn't have anything to do with social media, but a social media influencer who has the story that you do, like you could really help people with your message. Yeah, there's going to be some haters who might say this, that, or the third about you and your appearance and could make you self-conscious. But the healing that you can create for others is worth it. Like when we get too self-conscious, but there is like a message that we want to share, again, that is building in the cosmos for you, with Jupiter about to enter your third house a little later this year. But alas, when we get too in our head about how we come across as we deliver a certain message or as we are this sort of leader or what have you, we almost get kind of narcissistic in a sense. And it's not narcissism in this sense around, I think I'm so great, because we know with Chiron there could be certain things that you are insecure about. So it's not from that lens, but it's almost getting in the way of the healing that you can create and the impact that you can have, because you can't stop thinking about yourself. How will people perceive me? It's bigger than you, my love. It's bigger than you. Get out of your own way and know that that insecurity around showing up and being visible and trying something new, wherever this is showing up, it does lessen over time. Sometimes you just have to take that first step and it gets a little easier and it gets a little easier and it gets a little easier. So the solar eclipse is asking you to boldly and bravely take that first step. If the Aries solar eclipse lands within the second house of your astrological natal chart, this message is for you. You may potentially be a Pisces ascendant, or you just have 19 degrees Aries located within the second house. Either way, this message is for you. This is a time for you to be unapologetic about your desires and what you want out of life, and to be unapologetic about the fact that you deserve what it is that you want out of life. Not all of you will be Pisces risings, but I am talking to a lot of Pisces risings, so I want to say that Pisces is a sign that has to do with the spiritual plane, and I feel that particularly around the topic of money, which second house where this lands is a very financial house. When we are more spiritually tilted or interested, sometimes there can be guilt or shame around money or wanting certain material things out of life, out of this experience. And this is a solar eclipse to really get real and heal any of that guilt that you have within your energetic field, because it does block us from attracting and having a really healthy relationship with money when we're like, ooh, is it spiritual that I want to drive a nice car? Or is it spiritual that I would love to earn, six figures? Like, release anything within you that makes you feel like being a spiritual person and being wealthy cannot exist within the same reality. Like for some of you, you're healing money blocks that you can have around that, or other financial truths that could be ricocheting within your brain and within your subconscious can be coming to the surface with this solar eclipse. Maybe it's not the spiritual people can't be wealthy. Maybe it's something else. Maybe it's rich people are evil, or I don't deserve to spend money on myself, or every time I attract in money, I spend it all the same, or I will never be able to cover and meet my needs. There can be painful messages that you are observing during this time, especially you have Mercury retrograde here. So a lot of you are really being asked to really contemplate your relationship with money. When we talk about Chiron, like some of you could have really had some painful experiences around money. You've seen how money changes people. You know what it's like to go without. You don't trust your ability to earn your own income. Like there can be these dominant narratives that are ricocheting within your brain currently. But I want you to know that this Aries solar eclipse is setting you up for a new start. And to be able to shift any narratives that we have within our mind around money, we have to firstly acknowledge them. So there could have been certain circumstances, and you might even observe this through the rest of Mercury retrograde, where there are things that are happening financially that are sort of like echoing narratives that you have held around. You get some sort of subscription auto renews when you didn't mean to renew that subscription. It just affirms this message around, see, I'm no good with money. I'm no good with money. I needed that money for something else and now it evaporated. This always happens to me. Or you go out for a job that pays more than you've ever made and you don't get it and you're like, see, I could never earn that much. Like just being conscious of what comes up right now and being mindful before you confirm what your mind feels to be true. true. Again, there can be circumstances coming up and there can be a tendency to want to validate around see, like the mind wants to be right, even if it's something painful. Okay, with Chiron, it's like, I don't want to be bad with money. I don't want to be this impulsive around money. And with this solar eclipse, it's really around how can we heal our relationship with money and the narrative that we have around money. And with this energy, because we have to keep in mind, we're in this 3D world, which does require us to, take action and in order to ensure that we have financial wellness within our life. But some of you, these narratives could be blocking you from taking those opportunities around, well, I had that launch and it didn't go well that one time, so I'm not going to launch that part of my business, even though it could be quite lucrative. Or I'm not going to apply for jobs like that because I don't know if I can earn that much. And that sucked to be let down on the 3rd round of interviews last time. Like, those messages can block us from opportunities that come up, or even an idea that comes in around, wouldn't it be cool to work for myself? But again, if we subscribe to that narrative, we could block ourselves from taking those opportunities, from following our instincts to what will get us into a better financial place. And so that is where there is this blending around both healing what's happening inwardly around money and allowing that to reflect within our actions out in the world. Because Aries is about showing up for yourself. So again, it's part of it is happening inwardly. Some of you could be reviewing your bank accounts, what's coming in, what's going out. You could be reviewing your spending. You could be looking at your attitude around money. For some of you with Aries here, you might have a tendency to be very impulsive with money, around if you see something, you want something, and like kind of getting to the message of that, like, where does that come from within me? Like, where does this behavior come from and how can I shift it? Some of you can feel like you can never spend money on yourself. You're like fight or flight about money, where if a client says no to working with you, you panic and you freak out and you feel like you're not going to survive. Like, some of you are really just being asked to observe what's happening within your financial reality and observe the narrative that accompanies it and see where it is that you could potentially have a new start around shifting that narrative, because that will shift how it is that you take action within this world. Now, if the money piece does not relate, I do want to let you know that second house is the house of self-worth as well, which also can impact how it is that we show up within this physical world. Some of you are being asked to advocate for yourself and for your value. Like, if you are someone where you don't follow up on invoices because you feel bad, or you know you deserve a raise, but you feel awkward asking, this is a time to know your worth and advocate for your worth. This world will be all too quick to undervalue you, all too quick to undervalue you, because they benefit when they can underpay you, when they can undervalue you, when they can not treat you well. They benefit directly from that. And so you need to advocate for what it is that you are worth. Nobody will do it for you. And if you're in an environment where you're like, I am not being paid enough, with the energy of the solar eclipse, you can be guided around finding new income streams and pursuing them. Like, Aries is a very action-oriented energy. So it's around pursuing ways in order to feel that your worth is being compensated. And again, I'm speaking a lot about finances, but I also want to widen the picture, my loves, because when we talk about this energy of self-worth, this impacts every element of our life, not just our finances, okay? Our own self-worth that we have for ourselves. For some of you, this has nothing to do with dating. I just feel like it's a message that somebody needs to hear. For some of you, you are not knowing your worth when it comes to your relationships. You are settling for less than you deserve. Like, if you know any Aries placements, get around some Aries energy. I always am so inspired by my Aries friends, because they are unapologetic about their desires and what it is that they want out of life and what it is that they are worth. They're unapologetic about it. They don't care if you think that they're all that. They don't care if you think that they're self-centered. Absolutely, this energy could be overdone potentially, but this is an energy around channeling your inner Aries when it comes to knowing your worth. And that could impact your journey around your relationship, that can impact your journey around your finances, maybe even just within yourself. You're just not seeing how valuable you are as a person. And for some of you, you might not be feeling it right now. Like with Chiron, a lot of you are healing your relationship to your own self-worth. And you might need to fake it till you feel it a little bit around operating through your day around, if I knew how worthy and valuable I was, how would I spend my day? how would I feed myself? How would I spend my time? How would I spend my money? How would I invest my energy? How would I walk into this interview? And the more that you make decisions from that version of yourself who knows and is confident in your worth, the more magnetic you are. And it's beyond even just being magnetic, because the energy of Aries, it does ask us to take action, to be assertive. It's just you'll be in that space of making decisions and settled in your worth, and it helps you be confident where when you see something that you want, or there's an opportunity that comes in, or there's something that you want to purchase, you have built this internal landscape within yourself where you understand your worth. You're like, I am worth that beautiful purse, or I am worth that new job, I am worth my own business, whatever it is, and thus you take action because that opportunity is in alignment with the version of yourself that you hold within your mind and the narrative that you've built within. It's when we exist in a narrative where we're already being down on ourselves that we are unable to see even the opportunities or see things that could better our lives because we do not feel worthy of them. So this does ask you to really look inward on the narrative that's existing within your brain around money, around self-worth, around possessions, and allow that to shift. Even if some painful messages come to the surface, allow it to shift and notice how that ricochets into your physical material reality. If the Aries Solar Eclipse, April 8th, 2024, lands within the 3rd house of your astrological natal chart, or you have 19 degrees Aries located in your 3rd house, this is your reading. And the new start that is currently aligning for you is to communicate more courageously. Some of you are going to feel this in an interpersonal context around, some of you need to be more vocal around what it is that you need at your workplace, within your relationships, within your partnerships. This is a solar eclipse that is aligning for you to be a little bit more bold. And this is not me saying to be reckless with communication. Keep in mind, Mercury is also retrograde during this eclipse in your 3rd house. This is an incredibly important time to be mindful and intentional with your language. But for a lot of you, you're realizing how many times you have held your tongue. And for some, that could be a painful realization around the ways that you have not stood up for yourself, the ways that you have not advocated for yourself. And this could be showing up in big ways, or this could be showing up in little ways. Like when you get your nails done, like saying like, that's not exactly what I had in mind. Or when you get your hair done, like just kind of going with the flow, even when you are unhappy with what it is that you see. Like this is a solar eclipse to advocate for yourself, to speak your mind, because nobody knows what's happening within your mind. Your nail tech does not know that you were hoping that the shape would be a little bit more round. Person doing your hair does not know that you were hoping for a little shorter. Like we have to vocalize what it is that we want. People cannot read our minds. And again, those are silly little examples. This house doesn't have anything to do with hair or nails. I'm just saying, observe the way that you communicate about your needs and desires, even in the little things. And you will start to see clues around how you communicate in the big things, right? How you vocalize, hey, this is what I need from our marriage. Hey, this is behavior that is unacceptable for me within the workplace. And yes, this will temporarily disrupt the peace, right? Like with South Node Libra, some of us are realizing that we have kept the peace to our own detriment. And that can be painful. The way that you have not advocated for yourself, the way that you have not spoken your truth. And we see that with this solar eclipse conjoining Chiron. And when we view from that lens, the solar eclipse is aligning for you to heal. For you to heal whatever made you feel like you had to bite your tongue. Whatever made you feel like you were to be seen and not heard, particularly if there was a dissenting opinion or something that you needed to advocate for or fight on behalf of yourself for. It's important to highlight with the energy of Aries. Not every truth that we are sharing might be the most popular or what people necessarily wanted to hear, but it's important for you to say your piece. And, you know, I'm not talking to all Aquarius risings, but I know I'm talking to a couple of you. And, you know, Aquarius is an air sign. You got a lot of thoughts in this brain, okay? And with Chiron in the 3rd house, there can be certain things that have bothered you or certain things that are on your mind that are bothering you. And it's time to start speaking up about them. This could show up potentially in a therapy environment. Maybe you are communicating around where it is that you are healing or where it is that you want to heal. Maybe that's something that's coming up within your journey. But for some of you, maybe you're holding on to something that you never said and it's bothering you. And if appropriate, this solar eclipse could be asking you to converse or say your piece, or even when I'm upset about something and I don't want to necessarily say my piece to that person, but I'm like ruminating on something and being like, why didn't I say this or this? Sometimes I'll write them a letter and then never send it. Burn it or something. You know, it's a solar eclipse and a fire sign. Burn it safely though, please. Please. But sometimes it just helps to be able to vocalize and put words to thoughts that are just swimming in our brain over and over and over again that have no outlet. You might find it's quite healing during this time to journal, allow yourself to rage in a journal. I've shared this example before on Magic Monday, but an exercise that I do when I'm really mad about something is I'll journal about it, and I'm not allowed to write down one positive thing. It has to be pure rage and anger and frustration for as many pages until my hand is tired. And then you'll feel better after. Towards the end, you'll be like, okay, this is silly. I'm ready to move on. But it helps, particularly with this solar eclipse, to put words to what it is that you're feeling, whether it is to somebody else or just within your own journal. And for some of you with Mercury retrograde here, you could just be really thinking about your communication style and how you want to potentially even shift it in order to make it more authentic. Like with the energy of Aries being here, maybe some of you are wanting to be more intentional and more mindful of your language. Maybe with the energy of Aries, you tend to be brash and reckless and say things before it's totally thought out. That could also be something that's aligning currently. So outside of the communication lens of this house, I also want to bring forward that this is the house that governs sales, marketing, social media, ways that we vocalize or put our message out into the world in different ways. And for some of you, you've wanted to share your story, but you're fearful of the dissent that it could cause. You're fearful of being judged. You're fearful of being critiqued. And this is a solar eclipse that is asking you to move forward, not just in spite of those insecurities, but because of those insecurities. And what I mean by that is that there could be something that you share that could be both healing for you as the transmitter of that information, as well as other people as the receivers of that information. There is a particular potent magic that occurs when you share about something that only a few amount of people would know about, like to a solo, like know about, because of what it is that you've gone through and these people have gone through. There is a particular perspective that your experiences have gifted you. And this solar eclipse is about empowering the nuances of that story and understanding the healing quality of it. I'm not saying that everybody needs to, start a healing TikTok. There could just be something around starting to show up, starting to write more, starting to post more that feels healing for you because you're allowing your words and your creativity to be expressed, particularly in a verbal context with it in the third house. There could be something healing for you to be able to share more, to get over your fears of judgment or fears of being misunderstood. I feel is a big one for you all. This is a solar eclipse about getting over your fear of being misunderstood. You will be misunderstood. You will be misunderstood by this world, but you biting your tongue because you're so fearful around, what if I speak up about something and then people don't understand it? They won't, but some will. And it's about you communicating in a way that's in alignment with your integrity, that's in alignment with what's important to you, and understanding people will arrive to their own perspectives. It is not your responsibility to control the narrative or to control other people's perception to you and to your message. All you can do is share in the most authentic way possible. And that's all you're being asked to do. And so with this solar eclipse, there can be something that you're feeling empowered to write about, aspects of your story you want to share about. This could also just be maybe you already show up online in some way, maybe you have a business or something of that nature, and you need to get more comfortable around saying, hey, I do this thing. It's really cool. Book with me. Like, some of you need to learn to advocate for yourself in your language, because that energy around feeling unsure around, I don't know, I take good photos, but if it's out of your budget, I understand. Like, being mindful around how it is that you frame your marketing and your communication out into this world. And with the energy of Aries, it's not saying to be egotistical. It's simply standing in your worth and saying, hey, I do this thing. And with this energy of Aries, it's about advocating for yourself and saying, hey, I do this thing and it's cool. And and you all could benefit from booking with me. And again, even if it's not something personal, even if you work in sales or marketing or PR, what have you, some of you could be really looking at your language and how it is that that can frame, how it is that you communicate out into this world. Random message for a couple of you, there could have been neighbor drama, there can be sibling drama, or something of that nature. And this solar eclipse asking you to ensure that you are advocating for what it is that you need from your neighbors or from your siblings, what have you. And others, there's a fear around looking dumb that's keeping you from enrolling in that class or learning that new skill. And it's time to get over that fear of being dumb. The only thing that's dumb is you holding yourself back out of fear of looking dumb. That's the dumb thing, okay? Because the energy of Aries, it's empowering our ability to try things and to feel alive and to mess up and to get better and to fall down and to get back up. But at least you're trying, at least you're participating. So speak your truth, put words to what it is that you're feeling, learn that new skill, advocate for yourself and your products this Aries solar eclipse. If the Aries solar eclipse lands within the 4th house of your astrological natal chart, this message is for you. You may potentially be a Capricorn ascendant, or you just have 19 degrees Aries located within the 4th house. Either way, this message is for you. So what this Aries solar eclipse is bringing up for you is new beginnings as it relates to home, emotional state, and family. And so firstly, I want to talk about you. Just you. Before we widen the view, let's talk about you. Because you currently are being guided to prioritize matters that are very sacred, that aren't really that out in the world. And a lot of you are Capricorn rising, so you're used to your sense of self being very much aligned with what it is that you create and contribute to the external world. Yet currently the cosmos is asking you to prioritize what it is that you desire out of life to a very soulful level. And for some of you, you could be feeling weirdly unmotivated when it comes to things that you used to want. Like your desires could be taking you in a different direction and you might not recognize yourself right now. Because you're like, why am I not more motivated at work? This used to be something that I love to do, and now every time I get to my computer, I just want to scream. Like, where is this coming from? And I want to say it's not that all of you need to, quit your jobs currently, but it just feels like the universe is asking you to prioritize matters of life that are a little bit more private, that are a little bit more sacred, to figure out what it is that you truly want out of life, what will truly make you happy. Because I feel that for some of you, the things that you thought were going to make you happy did not make you happy. Like you always were building towards this thing or wanted to create this, and now you're there and you're waiting for that feeling. Like, why'd I work so hard for this? Like, I don't actually enjoy this at all. And that'll just be a message for a select few people, but all of you are experiencing this rerouting where you're starting to ask yourself, what will make me happy? And how can I fight for what will make me happy? Energy of Aries is about advocacy and assertion, and with this in the sector of the chart that governs emotional state, some of you are fighting on behalf of what it is that you want to feel. Some of you have been working too much. It's been throwing you off balance. Maybe the Libra lunar eclipse made that apparent. And with this energy, it's advocating like, no, I need more time at home. I need more time with my family. Like, this is not what I wanted. My private life has needs too. I'm not just what I put out into the world. And advocating for that and fighting for your peace, which sounds like a juxtaposition, but there is this energy around needing to advocate for your peace. And so when we consider that this is the house that governs home, we have Chiron here. And so some of you are doing some deep healing. You could be doing some generational healing. You could just be healing within your own way. There are things that are occurring within you that might not make sense to the external world, hence why there's such a nudge to prioritize them at this moment. And for some of you, you're needing to advocate for within your physical residence for this space to be at peace. So maybe some of you are having to advocate when it comes to a roommate situation, or when it comes to a landlord situation, or even when it comes to family, like advocating like, I need at least one night alone. I need at least one night alone. And being able to stand within that around, this is what's important for my emotional state, to put me into the best emotional state. And again, sometimes we have to get in that Aries energy around advocating. And maybe that's something that you haven't always done with Chiron there. Maybe you have tried to keep the peace, or you've tried to suppress your desires, or you've tried to always help out family with every little thing, even when there's aspects of your own journey that are pulling you away. You've tried, and this Aries solar eclipse can be aligning for you to prioritize your own healing, to prioritize that you are someone who deserves to feel good and deserves to feel at peace. And in a perfect world, we would just naturally feel that way, but sometimes we have to assert boundaries in order to create the sanctuary for that to occur. And again, this could have to do with your physical residence, this could have to do with your family relationships, but I do see this energy around needing to advocate in order to create that healing sanctuary that you need at this time. I don't know if it's physical healing, emotional healing, spiritual healing, but there's certainly this prioritization around what's beneath the surface. On that note, this is the house that governs roots, not just the family that you grew up within, but also lineage, ancestry. And so for some of you, there also can be work around healing pain points that exist within you because of family. And again, it could be the family you grew up in or your lineage, but there is a focus around advocating for the healing that's taking place at this moment. And again, this could be coming up around, there are certain pain points within you, certain reactivity within you, certain triggers that exist within you that is not even yours to carry. The pain is not yours to bear, but because it was modeled to you or even passed down to you, there is this energy around, this is not my fault, but like how I progress forward and how I heal is my responsibility. And something that's powerful about generational trauma is that when one person heals in the family line, it heals the entire line of people who came before you. And some of you are doing that work right now, which is intense. And with this energy of Aries on Chiron, some of you are needing to advocate for that healing or advocate for the boundaries that you need in order to support that healing. I see for some of you, there could have been certain wounds around always got to be tough. Can never let your guard down. Maybe for some of you, you had to be super self-sufficient and hyper independent because you didn't trust the people in your family to meet your needs. And again, that could go back in generations. And with this solar eclipse, you could be asked to embrace the vulnerable parts of you around, hey, I'm not strong all of the time. I can't meet my needs all of the time. And I'm going to raise my family, if you choose to have children, in a different way. I'm going to integrate that vulnerability does not equal weakness. In fact, vulnerability is strength. Because there could have been patterns within your generations around ways that people tried to cope by hiding their vulnerabilities with anger or even acting like everything was okay. Like you could be doing some deep work around understanding that mentality and being conscious around, no, I'm taking steps to ensure no more. No more. And for some, this could just be showing up around needing to advocate for yourself and your desires and your path to family. You might find that they don't understand why it is that you're doing what it is that you're doing. And with Chiron here, it could trigger a pain point like, dang, I just wish, I wish my parents would understand that this is the path that I want to take for my life. I wish my family understood that this is how I want to raise my family, which differs than how they raised me. I wish. But again, we cannot force people to understand. And with this energy of Aries, it's like, I don't need them to understand. I understand myself. I validate myself. And that could be something healing. And so for others of you, I'm just seeing this energy around needing to take accountability for your own emotional state and understanding with Chiron, there can be certain triggers that are coming up. And you could be being asked to take action in order to cope or to process your emotions in a more constructive or helpful manner. And for some of you, I just see this energy around taking accountability over your emotions. And again, this could be taking accountability over your triggers, like taking actions necessary in order to genuinely support yourself. But I see for others, it's taking responsibility for your own happiness within your life, around no longer allowing the external world to influence your emotions around, I got a text from my crush, I'm happy. I got a mean email from my boss, I'm sad. Like obviously these emotional fluctuations are to be expected, but for some of you, there could be this energy around wanting to take responsibility and just decide, no, today I'm gonna be happy. Today I'm gonna generate that joy from within. I'm not going to allow myself to be tied to this external world and tied to those fluctuations and allow it to impact my emotional landscape to this level. If the Aries Solar Eclipse lands within the 5th house of your chart, this message is for you. You could be a Sagittarius Sagittarius rising, or you could just have 19 degrees Aries in your 5th house. Either way, this solar eclipse is giving you a bold new beginning as it relates to your creativity, your self-expression. So this is a solar eclipse to start reclaiming what lights you up. As I highlighted within the collective reading, make sure to check out that part if you did not. The zodiac wheel is like a life cycle, and when we consider it from that lens, Aries is the first spark of life. It's basically the cosmic child. And 5th house, where the solar eclipse lands for you, also has to do with inner child. It's what lights us up. It's play, it's creativity, just as a celebration for being alive, not necessarily needing the painting that you're painting to go on Etsy and to sell it for lots of money and to gain notoriety. It's just, I like painting. This is fun. So for some of you, this is a solar eclipse around reclaiming hobbies, getting into some weird niche hobbies, learn something new, start creating more. It's just getting parts to your journey that make you feel alive, particularly if you've observed that life has been feeling really dull or really draining lately. With this solar eclipse in Aries, prioritize creativity, prioritize doing things just for its own sake, not that it needs to lead to anything else. Because even though it's not for that purpose around leading to something else, when you are doing things that make you feel alive, you are more magnetic. It's time to start prioritizing things that make you feel alive. And if you are unsure what that would be, my love, this is the time to find out. Like I said, Aries is about taking action and trying things and messing up and allowing the painting to be messy and taking the ice skating class. Even if you fall a couple of times, you're alive. Just think of kids. They're constantly falling down. They're constantly trying things. Like for some of you, you're prioritizing inner child healing right now, because this solar eclipse is very close to Chiron. So there's parts around you painting and ice skating and doing these activities that do feel healing. Because for some of you, maybe your inner child feels stagnated in some way. Maybe you had to grow up before you were ready to. And allowing yourself to have the space to express yourself without filter and without judgment heals that part of you that felt like you had to be someone that you were not. Because when we talk about 5th house, this is self-expression. So let's say you are already a very creative person. You're a singer, you're a dancer. With this energy of Aries, it's about embracing that raw, bold spark. Because you all most likely have South Node in the 11th house. So a lot of you are letting go of what's everybody else doing? How can I fit in with everybody else? This is the energy around how do I like to express myself? How do I like to dance? How do I like to paint? And for some of you, if you're creative, you can find you're trying with a new style at this time, one that feels very authentic. It can feel healing for you to experiment with new, bold ways of expressing yourself. Some of you could even find, like within your songs or something of that nature, you could be integrating more Chiron energy. You could be getting more vulnerable with it. And that might make you uncomfortable. But again, the solar eclipse is about that vulnerability equals strength. So with this sector, I also want to highlight outside of inner child, it's also children. And so some of you could be healing a relationship with your child. You could even be healing if you want to have children or not. Maybe with the energy of Chiron, there could be a physical healing taking place if you've been having a hard time conceiving, or there could even just be emotional, mental messages around your own worth and what you need to do to have worth in this world. And there's this energy around, no, I am empowered to make my own decisions. Maybe that's having children, maybe that's not, but it's allowing yourself to advocate for the choices that you want to make out of life, I feel, is a message for a couple of you. Now, 5th house also has to do with romance and dating. And for some of you, you could have been hurt, and it could have made you guard your heart and really block yourself off from new connections. Maybe you fell for someone and they really let you down. And there's parts to your journey currently where you could be having a hard time enjoying the fun, flirty process of dating because you have been hurt. And I want to tell you that this solar eclipse can be presenting you a new opportunity to step into a new chapter as it relates to your dating. And it's not ignoring the Chiron energy where it is that you've been hurt and wounded within dating experiences. Listen, it's crazy out there, I've heard. It's crazy. And if that is your story, be cautious what narratives you are playing within your mind at this moment, because Mercury is retrograde through this sector. So for some of you, you're really thinking you're dating. You're thinking about past people you've dated. Some of you could hear from people that you've dated in the past, situationships, hookups, things of that nature. That's all 5th house. So some of you could be hearing from some of those people, or running into them, or dreaming of them, or thinking about them. But I want you to be conscious of the narrative by which you are framing your dating experiences. If you have certain narratives because of your painful experiences, I'm not invalidating that, but if you have certain narratives around, all men are trash, or all girls on dating apps are this and that, like if you have certain narratives, it's important to know that the mind wants to be right. And sometimes we look for stimuli that confirms what we feel to be true. See, I knew all men are trash. See, I knew all girls on dating apps do this. See, I knew it. And sometimes it takes being able to bring that narrative to the story in order to pave a new pathway forward. And it's important to understand that the very act of falling in love, the very act of dating is vulnerable. Like, you can't go about it acting like you don't care. You will care. That's where you get true, authentic connection. And yes, sometimes you will get your heart broken and things will hurt. But I think at the end of the day, if you can still feel at ease with yourself and knowing that you are authentic, you are true, you were upfront about your desires, like, you can rest easy at night. People who are players and liars, it'll probably be more challenging for them to sleep at night. But do not fear putting yourself out there. Some of you could be healing from past rejection, healing from past heartache, and not wanting to put yourself out there, wanting to guard your heart. And I'm not saying you have to, line up 20 hinge dates this week, but this can be a start around moving forward, being fearless and authentic with what it is that you want out of dating, and also being vulnerable. You don't have to, trauma dump on the first date, but with the energy of Chiron, it's not feeling like you need to pretend like you don't care in order to guard your heart. Be discerning, be mindful, but it's this energy around embracing being earnest and having fun on dates, enjoying the process. That's what's aligning for you with this Aries solar eclipse. If the Aries solar eclipse lands within the 6th house of your astrological natal chart, this message is for you. You may potentially be a Scorpio rising. You may potentially just have Aries 19 degrees in your 6th house. Either way, there is a bold new beginning showing up in how it is that you advocate for yourself in your workplace or even within your doctor's office. And I'll go into more detail because those feel very different, right? So let's start with work. So 6th house is our actual workplace. And with this energy, some of you are needing to advocate for where it is that you've been mistreated at work, in the workplace. Okay, you have Chiron here. So there could be certain painful things that are occurring at the workplace. And for some of you, it could be triggering old pain points around, gosh, the way that my boss has special preferential treatment to this one fellow coworker reminds me of how that happened within my household with my siblings. Like, sometimes with Chiron stuff, it can go deep. It can go deep into triggers that we forgot that we even had. And for some of you, that can be something that you've been observing within the workplace, and the solar eclipse is asking you to advocate for yourself. For some of you, it could be advocating around being able to take on more responsibilities. Some of you can be needing to advocate around you have too much on your plate, but it's important to know that no one will advocate for you like you will. And this is a time to stand up for yourself, particularly as it relates to your workplace. Now, for others of you, this is standing up for your health. You could be on this healing journey, certainly with Chiron transiting the sector, and you might feel invalidated by the doctors that you're going to, or people not believing your symptoms or things of that nature. And this solar eclipse can be asking you to really advocate for yourself, advocate for finding the right provider if a provider is not listening to you. For others of you, on that healing note, you could be needing to take action in order to move towards healing. You could be taking action towards your diet, towards your exercise routine, in order to be proactive around what's coming up. It's important with Aries solar eclipse. It is a time for action. And some of you, Mercury is retrograde here, so you could be really rethinking what it is that you're putting in your body, how it is that you're treating your body, and if it's giving you the vitality that you desire out of this world. And if the answer is no, this is a solar eclipse to empower a new beginning, and a beginning that is conducive for healing. And when it comes to health, it's not always necessarily something where we could just get a new provider or switch up our diet and we're better. But I feel for some of you, there's this energy around really wanting to take actions to either mitigate the symptoms that you're experiencing, to support your body through the healing process. Some of you are really wanting to take action in order to allow your body to continue to heal and repair itself. So 6th house additionally is about our small animals. Some of you could be advocating for a pet, a pet's care. Sixth house additionally is our daily routine. So some of you need to know that you are worthy of your own time. And I know that sounds so strange, but with this energy of Aries, it's about advocacy. So with this being in the sixth house of our minutes and our hours, some of you have to advocate to have the time in your schedule that you need. If you find that other people are constantly demanding things from you or not letting you have alone time, this is an energy around prioritizing, around this is something I need within my day, and I'm willing to advocate for that need of mine in order to operate, in order to support my healing or to meet my work goals, or however this is aligning for you. Now, for some, a new position could be possible. Again, Mercury's retrograde here, so a lot of you are rethinking your workplace and rethinking if it's a healthy environment. Again, I do feel some of you are being asked to stand up for yourself, and that can be triggering, or the situations that you've been feeling at work could have created a lot of pain. And for some, you could be advocating for a new position. You could be finding with Mercury retrograde, you're rethinking, you're like, this workplace is toxic, or I do not want to be here. They are not valuing me here. Some of you can be asked to initiate a new journey as it relates to employment, to take matters into your own hands around, rather than waiting. We know Aries is very impatient energy. Rather than waiting for this workplace to get better, it's time for me to take the initiative necessary to get me into a better environment. Because particularly around workplace, but again, this is like our daily routine. So for some of you could feel this around gyms or things of that nature. Sometimes we have to take things into our own hands and take the initiative, because the places that we spend our everyday, we are energetic sponges. So if we feel like we're surrounded by toxicity and we've said our piece, we've advocated, we've said what it is that we need in an appropriate fashion, and things still are not improving, sometimes we have to take initiative over the only thing that we can control, which is whether or not we are there, right? Taking the steps necessary in order to initiate a new beginning could also be something aligning for you. If the Aries Solar Eclipse lands within the 7th house of your chart, this message is for you. You may be a Libra rising, you may just have 19 degrees Aries located in the 7th house. Either way, this is a new beginning around relationships. So firstly, what I want to say is that a lot of you are going through shakeups within relationships. When you have the nodes in the 1st and 7th houses, it tends to be a time in which there are shakeups. People could enter our life and people could exit our life, sometimes in dramatic fashions. And for you, really, when we really boil down North Node and Aries within your 7th house to its core, this is about knowing your worth, knowing what it is that you deserve within a relationship and not settling. This is about empowering your own desires and your own initiative within your relationship, being clear around this is what I deserve. This is where things feel imbalanced. This is how I need to be prioritized within this relationship. Like, yes, with North Node in the 7th house, this can be a time of deepening relationships and super aligned people coming into your journey. But it's important with the energy of Aries, it's important that you're not losing yourself within these connections that are coming in, which I know I'm talking to a lot of Libra risings, and some of you can sometimes have that tendency to do that. This is about really being able to enter into relationships as a fully formed you, with desires and needs and autonomy, and being able to hold space for that rather than just merging into the connection itself. So some of you can be activating that energy within your relationship. Others of you can be, dating and getting to know people from that mentality around, I know what it is that I deserve. I know what I'm worth. I know what sort of connections make me feel alive. And that's what I'm prioritizing at this moment. Now, Chiron is here. So some of you have been doing some deep healing around relationships. The new beginning forming for some is around new narratives, new stories that you are framing your relationships with. Let's say you have certain narratives around, people always cheat on me, or people always betray me. Again, I'm not invalidating what it is that you've gone through, and neither is Chiron, right? But with Mercury retrograde here, it's asking you to really be conscious of the narrative that you play around relationships, because the mind wants to be right. So if you continue to affirm these messages around always people treat me like this, or people never do this, you will look out for people or stimuli that affirms what your mind holds to be true. And this is a new beginning to allow healing to pour into your mind around new ways of framing situations. Again, that doesn't take away the hurt. It doesn't invalidate what it is that you've gone through, but it's just being conscious of how it is that you're framing situations in relationships, because the energy of Aries does ask us to take accountability. And I want to say this, okay, with Mercury retrograde here, you may hear from an ex, okay? You may hear from an ex around this time. You may be thinking about an ex. You may be craving closure at this time, and maybe that's something that can be healing. I think closure is never something that's officially given. I think it's something that we just need to create and find within ourselves. But I will say, if it helps you to write a letter or to have a conversation or to put that chapter behind, potentially that could be helpful. For some, maybe there's a new beginning possible if the two of you have healed. Again, that will not be a message for all, but it could be a message for some. Or maybe even a conversation just helps you create the clarity necessary that allows you to move forward. And for some of you, there is this need to embrace yourself as the messy, raw person that you are. Letting go of this need to be perfect or to feel like you have to mold yourself into the perfect relationship partner. Like with the solar eclipse on Chiron, it's about being able to voice like, hey, I'm struggling with this, or hey, can you help me with this? Like some of you are turning over a new leaf within your existing relationship or within your courting process around allowing yourself to be a messy, raw individual, because we all are. But I just feel, particularly with the energy of South Node Libra, a lot of you are Libra ascendants, there can be this need around maintain appearances, like keep it all together, keep it all together. And with the solar eclipse on Chiron, it's embracing, there's parts of my journey that have made me vulnerable. There's things that I've struggled with. And with this energy of Aries, it's embracing, whether in your current relationship or in being open to new relationships, because some of you can be entering new relationships, okay? If not this eclipse this year, prioritizing leading with authenticity rather than feeling like you have to feel into this person and be what they might want you to be. It's allowing yourself to show up as the person that you are, the most organic, raw, alive side of yourself. It's putting down the mask of trying to be something that you're not. And that could be healing. Because for some of you, the journey that you've been on in relationships has not been easy. There could have been a lot of healing taking place within relationships with Chiron transiting the 7th house. There can be healing your sense of self and how you could have found it in relationships. Like for some, the solar eclipse can be this energy around no longer needing to be in a relationship to be happy. Again, we're here to connect. You'll have many happy connections within this lifetime. But if you observe that you only feel good about yourself when you're in partnership, this could be energy around learning how to validate yourself. And that could be the new healing beginning forming for you currently. Outside of the romantic and the marriage undertones, I also want to bring forward that this has to do with business partnerships as well as contracts. So some of you are being asked to advocate for yourself. And for some of you with Chiron, that can feel nerve-wracking to do. You can wonder, will they still want to work with me if I advocate that I deserve to get paid more? Or am I being problematic when I point out this clause in the contract? But again, the affirmation for this Aries solar eclipse is that no one will advocate for you like you will. And whether this shows up within a business partnership, a contract, a relationship, a marriage, a dating situation, whatever it is, this is an Aries solar eclipse to advocate for what it is that you need and deserve within your connections. If the Aries solar eclipse lands within the 8th house of your astrological natal chart, this message is for you. You may be a Virgo ascendant, or you may just have 19 degrees Aries within your 8th house. But either way, there is a new start aligning for you currently. And the new start that is aligning is one that is a little bit intense, and it is multifaceted. So I'll express a couple of manifestations of this house, but it is pretty deep. Those who study astrology know how deep the 8th house goes. So take what applies for you in your world and leave the rest. Firstly, I want to bring forward that 8th house has to do with shared resources. And some of you are advocating for yourself as it relates to shared resources. You're advocating for yourself as it relates to alimony. You're advocating for yourself as it relates to child support, inheritances, prenuptials. There's an energy around needing to fight in order to ensure that you are getting your cut of the shared resources, however that is coming up into your experience. Keep in mind, Mercury is retrograde currently, so I'm not saying you have to literally do that on the eclipse, but that can be a focus of yours around, am I getting what it is that I need as it relates to shared resources in some way? And for some, you can be taking initiative as it relates to a loan. You can be taking initiative in order to deal with debt or taxes, and releasing the shame that could be associated with those things in any of these regards. Any shame around, alimony, or any shame around having debt, or any shame around needing a loan. Like with Chiron here, there can be old stories that you are releasing here, and understanding that with 8th house, it's other people's money as well as money that comes to us from others. And I always say to my clients, when there's 8th house activations, I'm like, it's important to know that 8th house is not just support that we receive from others, it's also support from the universe. And so thinking of random money that could find you, whether it's through, a loan or support from someone else, think of these weird ways that money is finding you as vessels that the universe is trying to reach you. Okay, because I know I'm talking to a lot of Virgo risings, and sometimes there could be an association around being such a hard worker and I work for what it is that I want, but sometimes the universe is trying to bless you. Sometimes the universe is trying to make it so that you can, work smarter and not harder. And when we consciously say, no, I don't need support, or no, I do want money, but not in that way, we are blocking of how the universe is trying to support us. Like 8th house could also be things such as donors or investors. And some of you could be asked to advocate for that, knowing that you are worthy of having other people invest in you, and releasing any narratives within you, because Mercury, your ruler, for a lot of you, not all Virgo risings, but for a lot of you, your ruler is in the 8th house. So a lot of you are being asked to really reshape the narrative that you may have around these unusual streams of support that can find you. Loan forgiveness, debt forgiveness, those are also ways that the universe and source energy could be wanting to give to you, right? To support your own endeavors and desires. So that's one dimension of it. I also see for some of you, you're really sharpening into focus what matters in this life. And some of you are not wanting to be fake, even for a moment. Like some of you are deeply aware of just how finite this experience is. For some of you, you have really sharpened into awareness what means something to you and what you want out of life, because this is the house that governs death. Don't worry, no one's going to die. But for some of you, you can be either dealing with grief, or you could be dealing with pre-grief, like somebody who's still in your life, but you're having awareness around, okay, one day you won't be here. Or there just could be awareness around things are changing. This could be awareness around, wow, my life is different. It looks different than how it did. Things are constantly changing. Because 8th house, when we think about all of the random things that the 8th house governs, what it all boils down to is that it's a house where we cannot necessarily control things. Like we can't control taxes, right? We can't control necessarily how much money our spouse brings in. We cannot control whether or not someone chooses to invest in us. We cannot control other people's money. Like we cannot control when it is that we die, when it's time to die. Like it is kind of this surrender house. And I know I'm talking to a lot of Virgo rising. You guys don't necessarily like to surrender. Maybe you'll surrender so long as you know the start time and the end time and what you should wear and the expected plans for said surrendering. Like this is a sector of the chart around the uncontrollable. And I know I'm talking to individuals who like some semblance of control. So there could be elements of this eclipse where you feel like your life is transforming into something that you don't recognize, but you're being asked to have courage amidst it. Like with this energy of Aries, you're being asked to prioritize what makes you feel alive. And because of what has sharpened into awareness around how finite this experience is, you're just wanting to prioritize what makes you feel alive and what means something to you. There's so little in life that we can control. And with this energy of the solar eclipse in the 8th house, it's really wanting to, in the ways that you can, it's wanting to prioritize what makes you feel alive. what with this time, this gift that we've been given, that is finite, right? When it's time to go, it's time to go. You're wanting to live while you're really alive and release any control issues, which I know could be painful with Chiron here. Like for some, I'm tapping into a message where you could not feel comfortable receiving support from others because you feel like it'll make you more vulnerable. Maybe people have betrayed your trust before, so you don't feel comfortable accepting support from others. Like this can be something that you are releasing currently. And with this energy of Aries, it's just empowering the messy first draft, okay? It's releasing perfectionism. It's knowing life is too short for perfectionism. Life is too short for trying to control the uncontrollable. This is just an energy to get on the roller coaster of life and just let your hair back and enjoy the ride. There's going to be twists and turns and ups and downs and upside downs. But the more that you can sharpen into the divinity and the urgency of this particular moment without feeling like you need to know exactly where the story ends, the more that you are in alignment with what the eclipse is bringing up. Because you could be in the midst of some transformation currently. You could find that you no longer relate to past financial goals that you've had, or even just materialism. You could just be feeling bored with. You're wanting to find occult knowledge. With North Node in the 8th house, you're wanting to prioritize what makes you feel alive. You're wanting to be open to unexpected ways that money can reach you, can also be a part with this solar eclipse. And while these themes that I was sharing around, death and grief, and that could be something that is profoundly touching your universe currently. But I want to say, if we understand death, we understand life. Because death is the great equalizer. None of us are exempt from it. And when you've lost someone near and dear to you, it makes you realize just how precious this particular experience is, and how we think we have all the time in the world, but we need to be impatient about building a life around our desires. With the energy of Aries, be authentic in building a life that is your own. There will be twists and turns, there will be things out of your hands, but when it's time to go, it's time to go. So this Aries solar eclipse is asking you to really take accountability in ensuring that you spend this time how you want to. If the Aries solar eclipse lands in the 9th house of your chart, you may be a Leo rising, you may have 19 degrees Aries located in the 9th house. Either way, there is a bold new beginning forming for you within the cosmos around 9th house matters. So the first dimension of 9th house that I want to bring forward is that some of you are boldly initiating a new quest to find a sense of meaning. I would imagine this solar eclipse, maybe a lot of you have gotten more into astrology as of late, numerology. You've been looking for answers. And if you've been looking for answers lately, I want to let you know you are on the right track. Again, some of you might have already been into astrology, numerology, faith, religion, spirituality, but for some of you, North Node in Aries could have really been opening you up to wanting to find answers. And it does feel like something that's allowing you to move forward in a more empowered way. Believing in something bigger than yourself, getting away from the small talk, getting away from the opinions of others, and really wanting to build a life that is meaningful. I feel for some of you could be healing. Like there can be something healing around feeling seen by astrology textbooks when you don't feel seen in real life. Or there can be something around feeling validated by your studying of religion when you feel so wholly outcasted by the people around you. Like there's something that does feel healing around it. I want to say that with Chiron here, some of you could absolutely be healing certain religious trauma or just certain narratives that do not serve you. Like you could have certain messages pinging around your brain. Keep in mind, Mercury is retrograde here during this time. And some of you can have certain narratives around these people are evil or this is sinful. And it could be giving you these energies of guilt and shame that are not serving you moving forward. And for some of you, there's a new start aligning around building a worldview or a sense of spirituality or a sense of meaning that is supportive for you. Because Aries is the very raw, organic parts of ourself. And I feel for some, this won't be a message for all, but I feel for some of you, there's aspects of what you were taught to believe that have made you feel disintegrated with parts of yourself. You're like, well, I learned that this is evil, but this is who I am. And so those are not compatible with one another. So it's led you to suppress certain aspects of you, of just within your authenticity. And this can be a new start to be able to move forward as a fully integrated individual, understanding you do not need to feel guilty or shameful for being the way that you are. And for some of you, you could have grown up in a religion or something of the nature that made you feel like you had to have shame or suppress or filter certain ways that you are. And so for some of you, can be reclaiming elements of what you used to believe. Some of you could be going on a quest to find something new that supports a sense of faith within the big picture. Ninth house is where we seek to find answers. And so some of you could be on the seeker's journey. You're open, you're curious, you're trying new things, you're trying new churches, you're trying new modalities. Some of you could be studying astrology more seriously. You could be studying a religion more seriously. You're really looking for answers, and it feels like it's just ricocheting in your reality in so many beautiful ways, feeling connected to something more. That even if things feel up and down within the moment, the more you can connect to something bigger than yourself, the more you work that muscle around trusting, it's all going to be okay. It just feels like something that's giving you a sensation of courage as you progress forward. I also want to say that for some, you are healing any fears around traveling. You're healing fears around getting out of your comfort zone. Maybe some of you want to go places, or you want to go to retreats, you want to do things, but you're scared because you're on your own. I feel it could be a message for a couple of you. Or you're not sure if you're strong enough or brave enough to do these things. And this is a solar eclipse around no longer allowing yourself to be held back by these fears. I just want to share on a personal note that this February I traveled to Thailand by myself for my 30th birthday, and it was one of the most empowering things I've ever done for myself. Of course, be cautious if you travel alone, but it's so powerful to be able to set off an adventure that you've chosen for yourself and have full accountability around the time is yours to spend. You can go on adventures that you want to. You're more open to meet and to connect with different people. It truly was one of the coolest experiences that I've ever had within my entire world, and I'm so grateful I didn't let the fear hold me back from seeing a beautiful part to this world. So I just want to say, for some of you, maybe you went through a breakup or you're just scared to do things on your own. The solar eclipse could be healing that part of you. Again, be cautious, but this Aries solar eclipse is asking for courage and asking for you to have courage to go beyond where you've been before. Ninth house is expanding out of our comfort zone into higher learning, into spirituality, into traveling. I want to say that for some, you could potentially, this Aries solar eclipse, be contemplating higher education. Maybe you used to go to college and there were certain painful experiences, or you feel like didn't measure up, and now you're rethinking jumping in. Maybe you are making a certain decision on how it is that you want to proceed forward as it relates to college. Could also be something that is aligning for you. But nevertheless, whether it's through the halls of a university or on a safari in Africa or deep in an astrology textbook, there is an ask with this Aries solar eclipse to be bold and courageous around the searching for meaning, searching for wisdom, the searching for the something more. If the Aries solar eclipse April 8th lands in your 10th house, this message is for you. Some of you will be Cancer ascendants, some of you will just have 19 degrees Aries located in the 10th house, but all of you are having this bold new beginning around career. So not all, but some of you are Cancer ascendants, which we know Cancers are the crabs. They like to be in their shell, but the cosmos are aligning for you currently to get out of your shell and to reach out and grab and advocate for the career, the dream career, or the desires that you want to a bigger level. It's kind of that energy around closed mouths don't get fed. Like some of you are having to advocate for this promotion. Some of you are having to create your own opportunities within your business. You're having to put yourself out there in order to advance your creative career. Like the energy of Aries asks for assertion and it asks for action. And that is aligning for you currently within the sector of career, public persona, reputation. And for some of you, on that note of reputation, you could be having to get comfortable that not everybody's gonna like you. Not everybody is going to understand you. When you stand in your power, that could trigger people. It could trigger you if you want to be liked and adored by everybody. But for some of you, you're just healing this need around needing validation from other people in order to feel like your efforts, particularly in career, are worthwhile. Like, especially for those who do something that's a little bit public, this is an energy around understanding, not everybody is going to like me. Particularly if I'm in a leadership position or something of that nature. But the more I try to be what everybody else wants me to be, the more I diminish my own leadership or creative potential, whatever it is that you do for work. And for some of you, there could be certain triggering experiences that you felt with a boss, with an authority figure. You could be seeking validation from them. And the Aries Solar Eclipse is asking you to validate yourself. That obviously, when it comes to bosses, like, we do have to kind of do what it is that they expect of us. But if you are allowing your own emotional landscape or your own worthiness to be completely hinged upon, do they like me? Do they not like me? This is a solar eclipse to be able to validate yourself, affirm yourself, understand that maybe you'll feel fed for a moment when they tell you good job, but then that hunger arrives once more. And when it comes to Chiron energy, it goes deep. Okay, some of it could come from childhood, father themes with it in the 10th house, this need for approval from authority figures. And this is a solar eclipse around understanding I'm so hungry and ravenous for this validation outside of myself that I need to give from within. And it's going to allow you to move forward in a more bold manner. And so for some of you, you could be advocating for yourself as it relates to your current career, moving towards the leadership opportunities that you want. And that could be something that you struggle with a little bit, because with Chiron here, you could be dealing with massive imposter syndrome. Am I capable enough for this? Can I do this? And this is a solar eclipse that's asking you to affirm. You can feel all those fears of doubt and insecurity and inadequacy, but this is a solar eclipse around stepping in and trying and initiating this new start regardless, whether it's in relation to a new leadership position showing up now or stepping into a new career path that will get you closer to your desires. And for some, this is around getting comfortable being visible. This is the most visible house of the chart. So some of you are putting yourself out there, and like I said, you're no longer fearing judgment. Again, maybe you're really feeling that fear of judgment with the Chiron activation, but you're moving forward even with it. You're putting yourself out there. You're understanding that what it is that you have to share and who it is that you're here to advocate for, and even the elements of your journey that you can share on are too valuable for you to keep yourself hidden, keep yourself in the shadows. The cosmos is aligning for you to show up, stand up. And if there are certain desires around, oh, I wish I could do this, or I want to advocate for this cause, or I want to be known for this, this is a solar eclipse to step into it, to understand for some of you, this calling is so much bigger than you. So when you make it about you around, I don't want to be seen, what if people judge me, what if they think I'm mean or too bossy, you're getting in the way of the impact that you could have. And with the energy of Chiron, you could be like, I couldn't possibly because of this or because of this. No, it makes you the leader, the creator, whatever it is. It makes you the person, the professional that you are because of what it is that you've gone through. Think about the role model that you can be around all that you've endured and still being able to fight through it, still being able to shine or to create or to lead, even with what it is that you've gone through. Someone very important to me within my life has had one of the most challenging childhoods I've ever personally heard about. And this is an individual who has created single-handedly, all on her own, a business that has generated, I'm talking millions and millions of dollars. She's done very well for herself. And she's coming to a place currently within her journey where she is feeling this call around wanting to share elements of what it is that she went through, because she was able to prevail. She was able to get it to the other side. And she just feels this calling around, if I can reach one person that can relate to any of the horrific things that happened in my childhood and give them hope around, no, I can get myself out of this situation. No, I can create my own reality and move in a more empowering direction. She's like, that's worth it. Yes, it's uncomfortable being vulnerable in that way, but it's worth it to me if I can inspire one person, because there were people who inspired me. There were people whose stories resonate with me because they were similar. That's why when it comes to Chiron activations, there could be energy around who wants to hear from me after where it is that I come from with these insecurities and these traumas that I have. But when you think about people who can relate to that, like being able to see how it is that you've coped and how it is that you've navigated, and maybe you haven't, maybe you're still in the messiness of it all, that is completely okay. Like with this energy of Chiron, it's not letting those wounds and those insecurities and where this world has done you horribly hold you back from reaching and creating the life that you deserve. And maybe even sourcing out mentors or authority figures who can help you in moving forward. And there can be aspects of fame or your career, your business, notoriety that can be triggering sometimes. Like there can be events that happen at career that bring you back to very, very raw parts of your journey. There can be parts of being public in some way, if any celebrities happen to be watching, that can be triggering around reading comments that affirm what it is that you feel is true about yourself or things that you've heard within your upbringing. You can feel triggered when you are viewed on a bigger level, or even just career and business can magnify certain wounds or triggers that we've personally gone through. And this solar eclipse can be forming for a new beginning to move forward even more boldly and courageously, taking ownership and agency around this is who I am. This is how I lead. This is how I create. Cannot control the narrative. And some of these comments might hurt my feelings or they might trigger me a little bit. And that's up to me to be able to take care of those triggers as they emerge or set the limits when necessary. But knowing that this Aries solar eclipse is aligning for you to move forward even more powerfully, even more boldly. If the Aries solar eclipse on April 8th lands in your 11th house, this reading is for you. You could be a Gemini rising. You could just have 19 degrees Aries in the 11th house, but either way, there is a courageous new start forming for you around your friendships, your community, and your broader network. So when it comes to this solar eclipse, it's aligned with Chiron. So there is some bittersweet energy around the new beginning. And I see with Chiron transiting this sector, some of you could have had some hurts and disappointments with friendship. And because of those hurts and disappointments, you could close yourself off from the potential of making new friends or putting yourself out there to initiate new friendships because you've been betrayed or because you've been done dirty, or even certain inadequacies or insecurities could be pinging around your brain around who would want to be friends like me. Like some of you can be in a shy state due to your own insecurities or just your own lived experiences around where you have felt on the outside looking in or felt different than other people. Yet, with this eclipse here, it is asking you to prioritize your networks and your communities and to be open to putting yourself out there, not just in spite of that Chiron energy, those wounds, those betrayals, but because of it. Like allowing those experiences not to harden you, but to make you even softer. And again, I know what you're saying. You're saying, Haley, Comet, I cannot be hurt again, particularly when it comes to friendship breakups. They're so brutal. I completely understand. It's not saying you need to allow people access to your full heart and soul right when you meet them, but it's having the courage to be earnest. It's having the courage to look dumb, even if you go up to someone and try to start a conversation and create a friendship. There is no shame in authenticity. I know it's embarrassing when we feel rejected, but at the end of the day, you can sleep at night. You were earnest, you were honest, you were authentic with who it is that you were. You initiated a friendship. You can't control how other people show up, but you can control putting yourself out there or taking the actions necessary in order to build a network or community where you feel accepted. And again, it's not being dependent on that acceptance, but I just see this energy where some of you are wanting to call in friends where you feel truly free to be you. Because Aries is the most authentic, bold sign of the zodiac. It's about feeling free and authentic to just be the way that you are and not feel like you have to put on a mask or pretend to be someone that you are not. And the solar eclipse could be aligning for you to prioritize that. Now, for some of you, you could just be integrating this energy within your existing friendships. I want to say that with Mercury retrograde here, some of you could be rethinking your friendships and where it is that you feel fully free to be you. Keep in mind, I know I'm talking to a lot of Gemini risings. Mercury is your ruling planet. So this Mercury retrograde, you could be feeling more intensely. And for some of you, you can really be contemplating who are the people I want to surround myself with and who makes me feel more me when I'm around them. Like a lot of this North Node in Aries transit is asking us to center ourselves within our lives. within our friendships, within our relationships. Rather than wanting to be liked by others, it's asking, do I like who I am when I'm around these people? Do I feel like these connections add to my life? It's getting a little selfish. Again, I'm not saying all your relationships should be totally about you, but if you're someone who's used to giving and giving and giving and never really stopping to ask, what am I getting out of this? You could be initiating this new start around prioritizing the friendships that make you feel truly free to be you. Like, you don't have to fake to be someone that you're not. You're comfortable, sitting in silence. Let's be real. I'm talking to a lot of Gemini ascendants. Y'all know how to talk, okay? But alas, those friendships where you could be weird and sit in silence or watch trash TV or whatever it may be, like those friendships where you don't need to fake the funk. And you don't need to pretend to be happy even if you're going through it. Like, for some of you, you're integrating this new start around being free enough to be vulnerable within your relationships around, hey, I'm not doing well today. My mental health isn't doing great. And it can even be calling in people who are in alignment with the healing modalities that have been helpful for your journey. It can also be a focus with this Aries solar eclipse. Now, for others of you outside of friendships, this also has to do with our hopes and dreams for the future. And some of you are letting go of any shame or guilt that you have held on to around wanting the things that you want out of life. Like, some of you are centering yourself within your own lives around, I don't need to feel guilty for wanting to do with my minutes and hours and days that I have on this planet what I want to do with it. Like, I'm sick of feeling guilty around wanting this sort of lifestyle, wanting to build this sort of future for myself. I'm releasing any guilt or shame around that. And I'm taking these desires into my own hands and building the future that I want, even if other people don't understand it. Because some of you with South Node 5th house, you're less keen for the partying. You're less keen to just do things that don't mean something to you. A lot of you are really wanting to assert yourself and move towards the future that you want to live. And for some of you, it could be on a personal level, your own ambitions. And for some, it could be on a collective level, like wanting to advocate for the causes that you hold deeply, wanting to build the future that you believe in for humankind altogether. And for some of you with the Chiron activation, you have a personal connection to it around, I know what it feels like to go through that. So I'm going to start this nonprofit to ensure that other people do not need to go through what I went through. Like, I really see there's this personal tie, something that you feel strongly connected to, either because of your own story or just something that bothers you, that hits a pain point within you, that makes you want to advocate and stand up for others and stand up for the future that you believe in. And this has to do with our social media following, not the words and the messages that we put out there. That's 3rd house, but 11th house is our followers. It's our subscribers. It's our essentially network. If you are online, it's also your colleagues, even if you're not online. But alas, there can be contemplations around the audience that you have amassed or the colleagues that you're surrounded by, and asking if they are in alignment with you and your authenticity. That can also be review. You could be contemplating shifting your content in some way in order to embrace ways that you could be more authentic and call in people who see the real you, where you don't have to fake the funk or be something that you are not, or promote a lifestyle that you are not living. Like, some of you are really embracing deep vulnerability, honestly. And that could be ricocheting in your friendships and your social media following for your hopes and dreams. But it's important to honor. This all boils down to the fact that your future is your own, your desires are your own, and it's time to advocate for them. If the Aries solar eclipse lands within the 12th house of your astrological natal chart, this message is for you. You may potentially be a Taurus ascendant. You may just have 19 degrees Aries located within the 12th house. Either way, there is a bold new beginning occurring around your solitude, which I know sounds strange, but hear me out. Aries is the sign of self. And listen, I know I'm talking to a lot of Taurus ascendants. You all are ruled by Venus. You guys are beautiful and charismatic, and you're here to love. We're all here to love. We're here to connect. But at the end of the day, you have to have you more than anyone else has you, because that helps you not settle in this life. If you are dependent on validation or acceptance from others, you may have periods of your life where you will settle for friends. You'll settle in relationships. You'll even settle for plans that you're not particularly enthused about because you don't want to be alone with your own thoughts. And with this Aries solar eclipse, it's really around getting comfortable with your own solitude and healing whatever wounds you may have associated with your solitude and with your loneliness. Like, you could have had certain seasons of your life where you were on your own. There could be certain abandonment wounds that exist within you. And this isn't about, needing to hermit away. I mean, some of you may possibly be craving to do that. It's not necessarily about that, but it's about building an inner world that is so rich that when other people are in connection with you, when you're in a relationship, it's the cherry on top. It's like you really taking accountability and ownership over your life and not allowing your joy or fulfillment to be completely contingent upon other people. And to get comfortable being able to sit in solitude is really parts of this. And some of you could have been avoiding solitude. You've had Chiron transiting here, so there could be wounds you could feel on your own. You could be, in a long distance relationship where you do spend a lot of time alone. You could be in a season of life where you move somewhere and you don't have that many friends. Like, there can be certain wounds around, gosh, I feel lonely. And it's important to honor this is just a season of your life. And while you're in this season of your life, get to know yourself, get to know your preferences, get to know how it is that you want to spend your everyday. This is just a season of your life. There will be seasons in which you and your long distance partner will, live together. You'll be surrounded by friends, and you might miss elements of the freedom that you have within your current experience. Now, for some of you, you're hearing this and you're like, Haley, Comet, I'm raising kids. Like, I wish I had all this solitude and alone time. For you, this could be advocating for your right to enjoy sacred time with yourself, to be able to have time where people are not needing something from you, with South Node in the 6th house, where you're not constantly of service. Like, some of you are needing to advocate for that space around being able to come inward and go within and be introspective and spend time on your own, and to know that you're worthy of that. We talked about this a bit in the Libra lunar eclipse forecast, which, just a PS, I've linked it below if you want to get caught up on that. But you deserve to have alone time. Even if you're in a great relationship, it's healthy to have alone time. And sometimes it can be uncomfortable when your partner wants to spend more time with you than you want to spend with them. And again, it's not against them, it's just for you. It's wanting to hang out with yourself, spend time with yourself. And for some of you, you're releasing the guilt or the shame around needing your own world, or kind of needing some solitude, needing to refresh yourself. When we talk about 12th house, it's also the collective unconscious. And so some of you could be on a spiritual journey that's requiring you to spend more time inward. Some of you, maybe that time inward helps you refresh your energy, particularly if you take on a lot from others. You have Chiron here. So you could also just be like purging energy within the collective, like really feeling what the collective is moving through and needing space to get it out of your system. Like, these are all possibilities. For some, I see there's this new start aligning around trusting your instincts, trusting your intuition, around being able to take action and trust and healing whatever made you feel like you cannot trust yourself. Because with this energy, 12th house can be murky. You might not know why you're feeling drawn to this opportunity. You might not know why you're feeling called to go your own way. You might not have all the answers, but you need to trust your instincts at this time. And with the energy of Chiron, you could be dealing with a lack of trust. Maybe you haven't listened to your intuition before and you betrayed yourself. You didn't listen. And then the universe showed you why you were getting that intuitive hit. And you're like, oh, that caused so much damage. Why did I not listen the first time? Like, with this solar eclipse, it's moving forward with that knowledge and really seeking to honor your intuition, honor your instincts, even if it feels murky at the time. I'd share this in the signs forecast, but I just want to share here as well that when I was traveling Thailand, I went to this party. I was peer pressured to go to this party. And when I got there, it was an arduous journey to get there. It was like 45 minutes. I had to be in this sketchy truck going through the jungle. It was a whole big ordeal. But when I got there, I just got this huge ping, like, I gotta go. I gotta go. And it would have been so much easier to stay. I didn't have a reason of why I needed to go. The people that I were with were like, come on, like, don't be lame. You just got here. There was also like literal logistical issues of me getting back. Like, this island didn't have Grab, which in Thailand is like Uber or Lyft. So I wasn't able to just call a taxi. Like, I was completely dependent on the sketchy truck to drive me 45 minutes through the jungle. Like, there were so many reasons that I could have disregarded my own intuition, but I knew. I was like, these people that I met in Thailand aren't going to advocate for me in the way that I will advocate for me. Like, I need to advocate for myself with the knowledge that I have. And I don't know why Spirit led me away from that party, but I was uninterested in finding out. I was like, listen, if you're saying leave the party, I'll leave the party. Okay, I have no interest in figuring out why my intuition is guiding me here, because I've had times where I didn't listen and disaster ensued. And I've learned from that, and I've healed whatever within me made me not trust my intuition. So some of you are learning to trust your intuition, even if it's murky or other people don't understand it. Some of you, this can be a new start around a healing modality that is helping you feel connected to the something more. Some of you, there's a new start around sobriety. There could be a new start around healing your emotions, not just suppressing them and running from them, like really facing them, which, let's be real, can be triggering. When Chiron's involved, there could absolutely be triggering themes. It could be hard to face yourself. It could be hard to face the ways that you have sabotaged yourself. It could be hard to face the ways that you have ran from the hurts that could exist within you. But this Aries solar eclipse is empowering you to have this bold new beginning, showing up as the most authentic, vulnerable version of you, being truly at peace and at home with yourself, trusting yourself on this new path, as well as trusting that spirit, universe, source energy is supporting your every step. So my loves, this Aries solar eclipse on the North Node is launching you forward. We all know Aries is a sign that has a need for speed. And when I say this eclipse is accelerating us towards a new timeline, a new era of our journey, a new chapter of our memoir, we are being asked to step into this new chapter with courage. We're being asked to claim this bold new beginning. We are being asked to initiate this invigorating new start. So ready or not, the Aries solar eclipse is beckoning you to take this step forward, knowing that you existing within your authenticity with all of your vulnerability is all that's required to activate this new timeline that the universe is orchestrating for you. So let me know where you're feeling this Aries solar eclipse below. If you are new to my content and you want to stick around to tune into my weekly horoscope forecast, Magic Monday, or the other astrology education videos that I do, I would so appreciate a subscription or any other little nudge, like, comment, share. It all helps within the algorithm. Thank you so much for being here. My Instagram handle is @HaleyCometAstrology. My TikTok is the same. I would so love to connect with you over there. Let me know, how has eclipse season been going for you all? This one has been a wild one. But until we meet again, drink lots of water and stay cosmic.